All right, welcome to this explainer. Let's just jump right in. If you're a young professional right now, chances are you're feeling, well, an immense amount of financial pressure. Between the cost of living, the race to establish your career, and the constant bombardment of overnight success stories on your feeds, it can honestly feel like you're already running out of time. But what if I told you that those early challenges and that super heavy sense of responsibility aren't actually signs that you're failing? Instead, they're the very first, absolutely critical steps in building an unshakable foundation for long-term wealth. Today, we're going to explore exactly how to build your architecture of worth. So, be honest with yourself. Are you feeling a little behind in your financial journey? It's totally okay to admit it. Almost all of us experience this deep-seated anxiety at some point, that scarcity mindset, whispering that we just aren't achieving success fast enough. We look around and think everyone else has it all figured out while we're just scraping by. Well, I want to be your guide today to help reframe that anxiety. We're going to look at some fascinating source material that flips this fear entirely on its head, showing you how your current struggles are actually your secret advantage. Okay, let's dive into this. The source material we're exploring uses a really interesting framework called Saturn in the second house. Now, regardless of whether you follow astrology at all, this serves as a brilliantly grounded, practical map for human behavior and financial psychology. Think of the second house as basically encompassing everything related to your wealth, possessions, personal values, and your family roots. Then, introduce Saturn, which represents discipline, delay, structure, and hard work. When these two things intersect, we get a blueprint for people who build security carefully rather than quickly. It's all about professional worth built on patience. And to really understand this patient blueprint, we're going to use the analogy of building a house. Here is our roadmap for the explainer today. We're going to start with step 1, the blueprint, move to 2, digging deep, then 3, pouring concrete, 4, framing, 5, building walls, and finally, step 6, the roof.
Part 1. The blueprint. Early financial pressures.
Every sturdy house has to begin with a plan, right? In the architecture of wealth, this initial stage addresses a reality that so many of you know intimately. Early life involving financial pressure, heavy family responsibility, and a deep emotional insecurity around stability. If you're currently experiencing a scarcity mindset, you really need to hear this. It is absolutely not a personal failure. Under this framework, this pressure is actually the deliberate drafting of your financial blueprint. You're learning the true value of a dollar precisely because it's so hard to come by right now. Part 2. Digging deep. Ancestral family roots.
Before we can build upwards, we have to excavate. Now, what's really interesting here is how directly our past dictates our present relationship with money. If your early family relationships were emotionally distant, the source material notes this often translates directly into highly cautious money management as an adult. Or if your family dynamics were heavily duty-based, you likely developed a very serious approach to your own financial security. You see, when a family environment is shaped by responsibility rather than, say, open emotional expression, your self-worth develops slowly and cautiously. You basically learn to rely only on what you can physically secure.
Part 3. Pouring concrete. Patience and productivity. With the ground finally excavated, we move on to pouring the concrete. We live in a youth culture that's frankly obsessed with quick luck and overnight wealth. But quick luck is sudden, yes, and highly unstable. It's literally a house built on sand. Contrast that with Saturnian discipline, which is slow, consistent, and purposefully built for long-term growth. The source highlights that true financial success in this model comes through traditional work ethics and steady productivity rather than a sudden stroke of luck. And this matters immensely for your peace of mind. A slow build might not look super flashy on your social media feeds today, but it absolutely ensures you won't lose your foundation tomorrow. Let's walk through this chronological timeline for a second. In your early career, it's all about scarcity and pressure. But as you apply that steady productivity we just talked about, you enter your mid-career. Notice what happens here. Your self-worth becomes deeply tied to your achievement and your ability to provide security. You're essentially proving to yourself that you can survive. This slow building of self-reliance is exactly what sets up the late career phase, which is pure, unadulterated wealth accumulation.
Part 4. Framing. Speech and emotional control.
Now it's time for the framing, which really requires internal structure. Under the massive pressure of building wealth, your speech often becomes controlled, serious, and highly practical. This isn't just stress. It's actually an early sign of professional maturity and personal growth. You might notice you use a lot of emotional restraint, keeping quiet in your younger years, playing things close to the chest at work. Amazingly, the text even notes that food habits can become restrictive or heavily routine-based.
And yeah, eating that same boring meal prep every single day is actually a subconscious way to maintain some level of control when your finances feel completely chaotic. And this brilliantly illustrates the why behind those behaviors. To quote the source directly, natural ability to survive difficult financial periods through endurance, realism, and emotional self-control. Your quietness, your serious demeanor, your strict routines, they aren't personality flaws at all. They are a powerful built-in survival mechanism. This emotional self-control is exactly what keeps you pushing forward during tough economic times when everyone else might just panic and give up. Part 5. Building walls, consistent savings habits. So, here are the practical, actionable steps derived from our source to transform that raw, early financial fear into a protective fortress of security. First, you have to acknowledge that strong fear of financial instability. Honestly, don't hide from it. Second, implement highly cautious spending rules. Third, apply careful, everyday money management. This means utilizing specific tactics like setting up automated transfers on payday directly to your savings, or using strict zero-based budgeting so every single dollar has a designated job. And fourth, the magic step. Channel that fear into consistent, structured savings. Saturnian discipline is literally the act of taking the energy of anxiety and brick by brick turning it into a wall that protects you. Part 6. The roof. Lasting generational wealth. Finally, we arrive at the roof. Notice the highly grounded avenues for wealth accumulation here. It definitely doesn't come from crypto gambling or buying lottery tickets. Mature individuals with this structured background build a diversified, impregnable roof through avenues like robust savings making up roughly 30% of the pie, acquiring property for another 30%, building steady businesses at 25%, and making disciplined investments for the final 15% over decades. It's a structure perfectly built to weather any storm. And the result of surviving all that early scarcity, maturity creates grounded values, profound emotional resilience, and a truly unshakable foundation. Because you built it slowly, and because you endured the pressure without taking shortcuts, you possess a deep internal security that no market crash can easily wash away. So, the crucial point is summarized perfectly in this quote from the source material: the wisdom to separate true self-worth from material pressure. Early on, your worth was entirely tied up in your productivity and the balance of your bank account. But the true reward of this slow, difficult build is that eventually you realize your value is inherent. The wealth is just the roof. Your spirit is the actual home. As we wrap up this explainer today, I want you to ask yourself, are you building just for today, or are you building an architecture of worth that lasts a lifetime? The pressure you feel right now as a young professional is incredibly real, but it is purposeful. It's your blueprint. So embrace the patience, embrace the steady productivity, endure the slow, highly rewarding work of building an architecture of worth that will last you an entire lifetime. The foundation is yours to pour. Thanks so much for joining me, and keep building.